The change of an office bearer comes with changes, some good and some bad. But for the first time ever, ZEC responded to a petition. We all know that under Justice Makarao, even with an official High Court order, you would get dololo a response. I'm shocked and impressed at the same time that ZEC responded after 5 days. Are we seeing a sign of institutions being less captured? Maybe. The response given by ZEC was in the Sunday Mail. Yes, I read it. I scrutinized it to the best of my abilities. So before we go any further, I'd like to acknowledge our supporters for tonight's show, Sol Emirates International. It is no BS that solar is going to be a huge part of Zimbabwe and Africa's future energy security. There is no better time than now to start making moves for renewable energy options. The link to their company website is in the description box of our video today. Please check it out and see how you can play a part in using clean energy in the future. Now, with that being said, let us get into the response by ZEC. There are two overall observations that I made reading through the responses, and these are: the law, as it was ideally created, it is impartial. It doesn't capture nuances, emotions, or past events. And that will suck for the opposition throughout the response given by ZEC. But that is the law. Secondly, the rules that ZEC operates with are statutory. This means that they are made in Parliament. Guess who sits in Parliament where ZEC doesn't? The MDC. So they follow the rules and apply their humanity where their realms only allow them to remain fair for everyone, even fair for ZANU-PF. I guess that's what being independent means, right? So now, let's get to the reforms. The first reform was that they asked to be provided with an electronic copy of the provisional voters' roll in terms of Section 21 of the Electoral Act. ZEC then says they understand why they would be worried, because in the past, ghost voters were a problem. This is how BVR came about. But they are only obligated by the same law that they quoted to be given the final voters' roll. Besides, the provisional voters' roll has duplication and errors. So they want to wait to decrypt, screen, and check the voters' roll, and only then will they be happy to release the final voters' roll. And that will be on the 14th of June after nomination court. Until then, sit tight. The second reform was they were asking for an additional inspection time following the fresh registration that occurred between the 19th of May to the 29th of May. ZEC says the Constitution allows all citizens to come during office hours to the ZEC offices to check for their voter status for any possible corrections. Saka imari yako yekombi wonanga ku ZEC. For now, they need to get on with the business of making the election credible, such as the nomination court, the ballot paper printing and distribution, the training of electoral staff, and so on. They don't have the time or resources to create many checking centers for people to do that. And anyway, if you didn't check your voter registration, use the link of the BVR inspection or the USSD code that is appearing on your screen now. The third reform was that they want an independent and external audit for the voters' roll. And ZEC says there is no legal standing for them to ask for that. They are happy for political parties to use their own money and resources to find auditing firms to scrutinize the voters' roll once it is out. So therefore, it is on the obligation of opposition parties to get their monies ready and their audit firms ready to go on and do what needs to be done to audit the voters' roll. And ZEC has asked ever so nicely that when you do find these recommendations, please pass them on to them so that they can also make necessary changes to their system. Number 4, the procurement and movement of the ballot paper is needed to be announced. But ZEC says that they reserve the right to be independent, and they do not want any political party to interfere, as this will be an infringement to their right to be independent. Procurement and the Monovunza Procurement Board and are extending an olive branch to say that printing is happening locally. Therefore, all political parties can come and observe printing. That is not okay. The retirement of security personnel has been a critical issue for the MDC Alliance. ZEC has responded, they don't have such people. And if you know them, show it to us. And therefore, the burden of proof lies with the accuser and not them. Number 6, they ask that there be a disbanding of the National Logistics Committee and the Accreditation Committee. These committees are simply committees made up of people who are service providers. And ZEC has clearly said that ZETDC is for ZESA, ZINWA for water, and so on. So if there's any committee changes that needs to be done, it needs to be done by the law, which means that they need to go to Parliament, and I must say, it is already too late for Parliament to do anything, especially according to the Constitution. The seventh reform is that the Alliance wants access to the BVR servers. For 2 marks, Murukudei Nema servers. If you get access, then ZANU gets access. Now it's a race of who can rig better, honestly, guys. But anyway, ZEC said, just like banks, the information that they are carrying is of confidential nature of the citizens. And if you so do need them, get affidavits and signatures of the specific people that have allowed you to get access to the voters' roll, and they will give it to you. Otherwise, you just have to wait for the final voters' roll. We have over 120 political parties. Imagine if everyone had access to that. That is a risk of my own information as a citizen and a risk to you as a citizen. The eighth reform was that they wanted clarification on the additional polling stations. And ZEC then came out to say that, according to the law, the polling station must have a maximum of 1,000 voters. And therefore, they have created sub-polling stations, which will be in the same vicinity and the same physical location. I'm sure you understand. All of us are voter kana queue yaga rebesa. And the ninth reform was that they wanted clarification on the monitoring and international observers. And ZEC responded specifically to say that the accreditation process is ongoing. Government gave an open invite to all observers and who must follow that accreditation process. Any possible glitches that they see it within immigration issues. That is an issue for the Home Affairs Department, which is headed by Minister Obert Mbofu. And the 10th reform was media access and fair time allocation. And ZEC clearly said that they wrote letters to ZMC and BAZ to help enforce the electoral law. And this is only possible to enforce after they are clear on who is contesting, which means that is after the 14th of June when nomination court is finalized. Number 11, that they were complaining that the use of food and inputs was a weapon in elections. And ZEC clearly just said, we deny any knowledge and any part of this. Saka, I guess, Ndikoko, this is probably the worst kept secret in the country. If any laws had to be changed, that had to happen in Parliament. Right now, I think ZEC's hands are tied. The 12th and last of the reforms that they were asking for was to make sure that the condition precedent for holding elections were perfect. The Commission then responded to say it is bound by the Constitution to carry out its mandate, and once the proclamation for elections has been done, it can only be stopped by the court of law. Now, I know there are certain people who love the courts, people like Linda Masarira. Don't get the court to decide on a matter now, because it holds ZEC from its operations, but does not change the election date. And when the court finally decides, ZEC will be required to do a rush job, and that rush job is never in favor of the opposition. So this is such a critical time for all oppositions to exercise wisdom. By wisdom, I mean start playing the real politics of lobbying each other before nomination court. Unite, make sure you win resoundingly, and then make the laws even more fair for 2023. Oh my goodness, I had forgotten the 13th reform, the diaspora vote. Sorry, Maningi. This year, the courts ruled in favor that there will be no vote in the diaspora. But however, you have a way to contribute to this year's election so that by the time you have a government that is plausible, they are working on making sure that 2023, the diaspora vote is a reality. Now, I know this has been a very long episode, and thank you for watching it up until the end. We're in a time where citizens must do our best to check on our voting status. The political parties must be geared up and ready for their audits and elections. And on the 30th, we go and vote. No more time for BS. So I'd like to give a big shout out to Makeup by Gamu for doing my makeup. Please like her page and follow her on Instagram and Twitter. So until next time, stay balanced. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel.